HogvilleNET YouTube Live. It's Monday night. It's also Meleek Thomas Day, national top 10 rated 5-star. Look, 7th ranked player in the country, according to 247 Sports. We've talked about this for a while. This day was inevitable that Malik Thomas would be committing to the Razorbacks. And it happened tonight, just a few minutes ago, actually. Thomas off the board with his commitment, giving Arkansas and John Calipari 2 top 10 rated 5-stars in this 2025 class committed. This is very interesting because once upon a time with Darius Acuff off board, the 6'3 guard out of Detroit in IMG Academy, when he committed to Arkansas in late July, for the longest time, he was the only top 10 rated 5-star commitment in the country. And now Arkansas is back at in the leaderboard in terms of numbers. 2 top 10 rated 5-star players committed. No other school can claim that. In fact, we'll see when the dust settles how many Arkansas has in the top 10. I do fully expect there to be more 5-stars on the way for Arkansas in this 2025 class. We're going to talk more about that. I've tweeted my commitment article out as soon as it happened, watching Malik Thomas go live with his family on Instagram. So I tweeted that out. I've also already tweeted out an article talking about Calipari and his talking point about he was just moving the headquarters from Lexington to Fayetteville. I kind of went into where Arkansas stands right now in this class, and I gave a cold, hot, warm gauge on the rest of the players, the other players he's focused on, laser focused on and targeting in this class in terms of where things stand with Arkansas. So that's also chock full. It's a deep dive on how these two players fit together, what it means nationally, and what still could be ahead for Arkansas as we look. The early signing period starts this week. It's an interesting day. You've got Malik Thomas off the board again to Arkansas. It's the first day of a 4-day dead period in the NCAA, so you can't have visits on or off campus. And then that dead period overlaps by 1 day, the start of the week-long NCAA early signing period here in November. Everybody knows it's annually this week-long period, November 13th to the 20th. I fully expect both Thomas and Acuff to get their paperwork done and be signed early and have at least half, maybe 2/3 of Calipari's signed class in terms of top rotation guys, because he said over and over that he'll sign 3 or 4 players in high school classes moving forward. He recently said 4 or 5, but he was also talking about maybe 1 or 2 developmental pieces in the group there. We'll see how it shakes out. I've always said this 2025 class is so deep and so good that he may have to cheat a little bit on his new philosophy and add more in this 2025 class than what his target number is. But let's talk about Malik Thomas, 6'4 guard. I've said it for the longest time. He's really an elite 2 guard. You can put him in some ISO situations, in some 2-man game, run the ball through him because his ability to create shots, and he's got a really high floor IQ, so he'll get off the ball and make the right play. I've seen this guy play in person multiple times. But he's an alpha scorer. He's got that mentality. But 6'4 out of Pittsburgh, we know that's Calipari's recruiting grounds. Once upon a time, this looks like this was headed to UConn. And the last 2 visits, as it turns out, that Malik Thomas took were to Arkansas back in early October. And prior to that, the last visit he took was back in June to UConn. And Arkansas, late June, Arkansas was supposed to get the next visit right after that. He postponed that. Then it was thought he was going to be a UConn Husky. Then it turned into, he was going to visit in that mid-September weekend when Arkansas opened its football season at home in Fayetteville against Alabama Birmingham. That was supposed to be a big visit weekend. It turned out to be none, and he pushed his out to early October. We've reported step-by-step what's going on with Malik Thomas. I interviewed him back in May when I saw him play in person in Kansas City. He had told me, gave me a heads up on that first visit that he wasn't going to make it, was postponing it. And then throughout, I've had a source that said forever, regardless of what they were saying about UConn, that when the dust settled on visits, Arkansas was going to get him. Same source that I brought you guys the information when back in October the 22nd, I believe it was a Tuesday, when this source said, hey, he's committed. He's committed privately to the staff. He's told them he's going to be a Razorback. Well, he visited the weekend of October 4th through the 6th, I believe. So sometime after that, the commitment got done. My source got wind of it, gave it to me. And the only thing that was still looming out there was a Kansas State visit later in October. Remember, Alabama was supposed to happen before Arkansas, and it didn't. He skipped that visit. And then it was just Kansas State later in the month. And then I got my another source tell me, nope, Kansas State's pulled the plug on that visit. It's not going to happen. Whether that's true or they found out that he'd already committed and he owned up to that, whatever the talking points were there, that visit was off the board. And so even though we'd reported the private commitment, it seemed like even more clear sailing once there were no more visits on the horizon. And we got to this point. It was then just a matter of time. We've talked about it. And now Arkansas has the number one. I mentioned having the only school right now with 2 top 10 rated players that are committed. It may, again, Arkansas may add more than that, but right now, the only school to have that, the only school, I mean, they've locked up. I've said this forever. If they get, once Malik Thomas makes this public, Arkansas will have the number one recruited backcourt in the country for class of 2025. That's over. There's no disputing it. Darren Peterson ranked a little higher than both, the 6'4" guard that's already committed to Kansas. We've been talking about that's been telegraphed for a while. He has made that announcement. So technically he's rated a little higher, but when you talk about backcourt 1-2, it won't get better than this. Now, that's in terms of recruiting rankings and how things sit. When I looked at On3, On3 does an aggregate. On3 Sports does an aggregate of all 4 services. On3, ESPN, 247, and Rival. So it blends in all 4, does an aggregate. And sure enough, in the aggregate, looking at all of them, both of those players are ranked top 10. You can find different services that have them ranked a little differently, a little higher. ACUF, according to 247 Sports, is the 5th ranked player. And I believe Malik Thomas and On3 are one of them. He's ranked as high as 7th. And then when you look at the composite rankings that 247 does, Malik Thomas is 7th there. So you're however you want to slice it and dice it, these are 2 top 10 rated players. They're backcourt players. Arkansas has locked up the top backcourt recruiting class of 2025. Another thing to look at here. Calipari said when he took this job and it was announced in early April, he was just moving the headquarters from Kentucky to Arkansas. Well, that can mean a lot of things. I think chief among what it means is that recruiting's not going to let up. And it didn't. This isn't his first class technically. It is if you look at it a certain way. The high school players that were either signed or committed to him at Kentucky, when you look at Boogie Fland, when you look at Carter Knox, we look at Billy Richmond's, some version of 5-star for each one of those guys. 2 of them were McDonald's All-American. You could either look at it where they got releases from letters of intent to come with him, but they were players that had just come out of high school. They hadn't played at the college level yet. So 3 5-stars out of that group, 2 on board already. So 5. That's a total of 5 since May. And there are more to come. We're going to get into that a little bit here as we move along. We're going to talk about what's left and what's on the table and what's to come. I've got some new intel, little nuggets on some stuff. But right now the focus is on Meleek Thomas, who again, 6'4". I said he's an elite 2 guard. This guy has a swagger. He's got a confidence level through the roof. I saw it when I watched him play multiple times in person and then watching some of his stuff online. Not just highlights, but game footage that goes beyond a play or two, just kind of watching him consistently do things. And he is a fearless scorer. At 6'4", he's bouncy, he's long. Again, I see him as a 2. You can run some ISO at the 1. I said that. He could also slot in as a 3 because I think because of his length and athleticism, he's got the potential to be a plus defender as he continues to mature and get stronger. On offense, he's already elite. Speaking of elite, overtime elite, playing with the City Reapers a couple of games in, he's already got 2 double-doubles. He's averaging 25 points per game, 12 rebounds. He was a volume rebounder on the high school level before coming to overtime elite back in Pittsburgh and led his team to back-to-back state titles. And I think his junior season averaged a double-double, including rebounds. So he is a plus rebounder at the guard spot. He will get off the ball again, 25 points through 2 games, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal. He's shooting over 47% from 3 so far for overtime elite. And he's made 16 of 18 free throws, nearly 89, 90% from the free throw line. But this guy plays with a swagger, with a confidence on offense. He wants the ball in his hands in game critical situations. He loves to attack the paint and get to the rim. He will dunk on people. Fearless that way. He's got a great crossover game. He can create from anywhere at all 3 levels. You hear that all the time, but he can create a 3-point shot off the bounce. He can create nice little mid-range game, runners, floaters as part of that. And then I mentioned getting to the rim. So he's got all the goodies. And you put him with Darius Acuff. We said forever. These guys will complement each other. Acuff is a scoring lead guard, yes, but he is a good very good facilitator, a very good decision maker. And when we look at Acuff's strengths, the stop and go game, he can play bully ball at 6'3". But he's going to make the right reads. He's going to set guys up. It's not all about his offense. And so you package these two together. It's not just about the recruiting rankings that make it the best recruited backcourt in the country. But I think actually what these guys do will help coming into it. Gives me the thought that they'll back that up. They're both got one and done written all over them. If you look at every platform these guys have performed on, all-star events where you talk NBA, NBPA Top 100, Nike Academy, all these different things through the summer, some of these opportunities they've had, they've showcased really well. They've been among the top 2 or 3 or 4 players at the events they're at that are loaded with 5-star players. So it continues. You know, you look at Acuff and his Team USA experience and what he did over the summer to lead his team to a gold medal in the U18 game, you know, out of the country. And again, Meleek Thomas so far at overtime elite, just turning heads. Some of this stuff is wild. Someone's putting Sealy as next. But putting these guys together, I mean, again, when we start looking just at this team, Boogie Flan, we haven't seen as much dynamic so far through preseason in 2 games from Carter Knox and Billy Richmond, but they're giving us a taste of what they can do. But we've seen Flan with DJ Wagner, a 5-star McDonald's All-American from 2 classes ago, and even Nelly Davis, one of the highest rated guard out of the transfer portal, arguably the highest rated player there. Arkansas is not clicking on all cylinders starting 1-1, but you're starting to see how Calipari puts high-level guys together and get some of that to work. He did it the season before at Kentucky with several 5-star backcourt players. 2 of them went in the lottery in the NBA draft. DJ Wagner transferring over with him from Kentucky. But the point is, when you see these classes put together, it's not one of those unknown things you go, well, are these guys going to collide in terms of who's the man and how do you get the production? There's not enough basketballs. Calipari, year in and year out, going way back to when his teams were having postseason success, has always managed having high-level guys, some of them that are similar and some of them that play in the same position group. He gets it to work. And so when you look at these guys, the eye test tells you it will work. The track record with Calipari and getting guys ready for the next level and learning that they have to share spotlight and learn how to play because they're not always going to be the guy the further along they go. All of that seems to me to blend toward a big win here in recruiting. I know Arkansas fans are still shaking off the disappointment of a loss over the weekend to Baylor, 2 ranked teams. Arkansas only fell 2 spots in the poll today. It was a 5-point loss in a game that really Baylor outplayed Arkansas inside and out. And the toughness of the Razorbacks, the resilience, kept that team in the game and gave it chances to win, even though it never got over the hump and took a lead. But the point is that I think what Calipari sells in recruiting on the front end is not just what I'm going to help you get to the next level. And here's the track record of those guys with max contracts, early draft picks, all that stuff, all those goodies that no one else can sell. But then he goes out and backs it up with performance. And again, we can look at postseason the last 5 years. It's a shame to do that. His Kentucky team's always good in the regular season. Very few outliers, always at the top of the SEC. Won a lot of SEC league titles, a lot of conference tournament titles, and had their fair share throughout his career, whether it was Kentucky, before that Memphis, before that UMass, led all those programs to the Final Four, a lot of success. So that's part of his selling point with these players. And he doesn't go after every 5-star. He picks and chooses the ones he wants to go after with a vision in mind of how they're going to come together and play together and help him continue to have success on the court with real results. So there's that. And so I think when we're talking recruiting with Meleek Thomas, this guy already is going to come in when I look at these 2 together, especially, but Meleek Thomas is going to come in with a belief in himself that he's ready. And that coaching staff will help him understand when it's June and July, when they're doing limited stuff and when things ramp up, what steps he needs to take and how he's going to fit in. But after interviewing the guy, he loved Calipari. He said he was definitely going to visit Arkansas, and Calipari was somebody that had been riding with him forever. He's talked about that even more recently in interviews. But the swagger's there, that confidence is there. And I've said forever, this was my favorite player in this class. Not that I think he's the best player necessarily. He may end up proving to be. If you're top 10, you've got a claim, and then you keep proving yourself. But it was the fact that he's a great player on top of I love the swagger, and I just like his personality. And so I think Razorback fans are going to love Meleek Thomas, Darius Acuff too. You watch Acuff on the court, and he plays a winning brand of basketball. Both of these guys will, but when you look at Acuff as a floor leader, as a lead guard, you really want to feel like that's what he's bringing coming in. And so you put weapons around him, man. And Arkansas is just getting started. Let's get into that. We're 15 or so minutes in. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I do have some nuggets to share with you tonight. First of all, congratulations again to Malik Thomas. Razorback fans I know are welcoming him to Fayetteville and to Arkansas and to being a Hog. He's off the board as a Hog. Two top 10 rated 5-stars in the 2025 class belong to Calipari, and the Razorbacks at this point both expected to sign early. And again, I've already got content out, a full article that I published for the commitment article that goes through details on Malik Thomas and this journey. The second piece that I put out, a full article talking about what Arkansas' start to recruiting looks like now with these two players and the backcourt and what's left on the table, and giving kind of gauging with cold, warm, and hot reads on each player. So go check it out. But now we're going to talk about some of these other guys. So let's get to it. Sean Abayev, 6'7" wing, combo forward, combo guard. I think he can play the 1, 2, or 3 out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, class of 2025, ranked number 24 right now by Rivals, a 4-star. This guy, when the dust settles, is going to be a McDonald's All-American. He will be a 5-star. Love his game, and he's playing with Fear of God Athletics right now on the overtime circuit. And 2 games in, I mean, he scored 37 points in his opener just a few days ago. That is an all-time high at Overtime Elite for a debut game. He backed it up with a 26-point game, so through 2 games averaging over 31 points. But Abayev is a beast. I mentioned this so many times. He had nearly a triple-double, 22 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, and was named MVP of that Under Armour Elite Next 24 All-Star game back in the summer. Just an outstanding player. He's got Arkansas in his Final 5. I continue to hear from some of the national recruiting analysts I talked to. At least one of them continues to state that Arkansas is in the driver's seat for Sean Abayev. Now, look, it's not just Arkansas. Arizona State, Oregon, Auburn, and the Razorbacks, and I'm trying to remember who the other team is. He's got another team in that Final 5, unless I just named 5. I don't think I did. I'm leaving somebody out. But any way you look at it with Abayev, it's been a little bit quiet after he took that midweek official visit on the heels of Malik Thomas's official visit when Acuff was there with Malik. Man, what a recruiting weekend that was, with Arkansas football team knocking off number 4 Tennessee at that time. And Malik Thomas and Acuff were there together. So all this kind of built up to what we thought it would. And Abayev would just add to how great this backcourt can be, slotting him in as a wing with a lot of guard skill. So it would only add to what now is the best backcourt in the country and will remain that way regardless of who you add. You add Abayev to it, it's only better. And again, look at this team built right now. Boogie Fland, Carter Knox, Billy Richmond. You've got multiple guys in that backcourt, lead guard, 2-guard combo / wing that are going to play together and have come in together. So and Calipari's got a history of it. So you're just adding to that. So Abayev, Arkansas in the lead there. Some people think so. I have another source who says, yeah, I think that's right. And again, Jamie Shaw with On3 Sports has him favoring Arkansas for Abayev. So we'll see there. When we look at Chris Sinak, Caleb Wilson, to me, that's where Calipari's really invested a lot of time in trying to get one of those 2 frontline guys. When you talk about frontline, sometimes they're called jumbo wings. I see Wilson at 6'9", combo forward, another national top 10 rated 5-star out of Atlanta. I see him as a 3-4 at the pro level, probably a 4 at the college level. Can defend some at the 5 because of his defensive versatility. I've said so many times he is the best defender in the country, regardless of class. It makes him the best 2-way player. His offense is emerging. But I think a 4 at the college level who can help defend any spot. He can switch on to guards. He's that good defensively. I see Sinak, 6'11", a little taller. Also has a finesse game, can face up and play facing the basket. Both of them are explosive, getting to the rim. Sinak, a more polished player with some of his shooting skill. But I see him as a 4-5 at the college level and maybe a 3-4 at the NBA level. But probably a 4-5 at the college level. But they're frontline guys in the way you would use them at Arkansas. And so to me, those are the 2 guys that Calipari's invested the most in. in terms of time. Now, here's another here's a little nugget of intel. I was told earlier today that Kentucky has increased its NIL offer to Caleb Wilson to 2.2 million. So originally they raised it to get to a million or a little over a million. Then it was 2 million. We talked about all that when I came on here. Now it's 2.2, and Kentucky's been thought for a while to be the leader for this guy. He took that visit. He had rave reviews about it. Caden Lewis, who just committed, a high-level guard that committed to Kentucky, top 25 guy. They've had banter on social media where you see them talking about maybe playing together, and that would be Kentucky, obviously. North Carolina's in the mix for Caleb Wilson. But the interesting thing to me is if Kentucky's having to continue to increase the NIL offer, how sound and secure is how firm is their feeling about where they stand with him? Because if they have to keep raising the number, it tells me that maybe this guy is looking to go where the best money is, highest bidder. I had a source that told me that a while back, and I brought that to several of these YouTube lives that we've done weeks ago. So maybe that's what it is. But the reason that Arkansas may still be in play here until they're not is that he had a planned visit that never was put out publicly and didn't happen for late October. We talked about it forever. That was the weekend Arkansas ended up hosting Kansas in that exhibition game. Boy, that seems like forever ago. It was only a few weeks ago. And then he put out on Twitter the following Monday that he was going to visit Arkansas the upcoming weekend. So the first weekend of November, when the team was on the road Friday night to play TCU in Dallas, but coming back and the football Hogs were hosting Ole Miss, that was a disaster and a debacle. Probably a good thing that Wilson didn't make it. His dad said later in the week, no, we won't be coming. Arkansas's got that exhibition game at TCU on Friday. And he did this through Adam Zagoria's reporting. I guess he interviewed the father saying, look, Calipari is going to get his visit. So now we just wait and see. That's where we're at with Caleb Wilson. Both he and Sinak, I've thought for the longest time, because of the when and how they lined up their visits leading up into the early period, would it likely come off the board and be early signees. But then I've got, mixed signals from folks that are covering this stuff saying we're not so sure about that. It may not happen that soon. Sinak just took his visit to hometown LSU. He's from Baton Rouge. We knew that was coming up. And I just mentioned the dates, November 13th to the 20th. I think he's visited just about everybody in his final 7 or whatever he's down to. I think it's 7. He's visited all of them, including that Arkansas visit back in October when a source told me, he said he was very impressed with Arkansas while he was there. The thought was, and I've said this, that might come down to Arkansas, Kentucky, and LSU, with LSU has been the perceived leader forever. LSU's got a good recruiting class in 2025 they put together. They're just not, they just don't have the track record with this coaching staff, results in the league in terms of what kind of exposure that you're going to get exposure playing the SEC. But it's just not on the level of what Arkansas can do. And then what Calipari does to help players get to the next level. There's no staff, not even Kentucky's Mark Pope, even though that's a blue blood and a better brand. Neither place can offer Wilson or Sinak what Calipari and Arkansas can. The NIL money is going to be there, but you got to feel like LSU, the hometown school, they've got a good recruiting class. They're going to throw everything they can at Sinak to get him to shore up that group and try to get LSU back. So to me, until I hear something definitive that they're not the leader, that's where I leave it. With Arkansas and Kentucky in the mix, I'm told Tennessee, don't sleep on Tennessee. He visited Tennessee with Sinak. Wilson again, Kentucky, Arkansas, Kentucky and North Carolina, and Arkansas if he visits is you gotta like Calipari's chances, because the dad has sung Calipari's praises forever. I've got that directly from sources who talked to him. When I've looked at the Sinak situation just as a player, Arkansas, both he and Wilson have invested a lot of time going out and recruiting him. But Calipari and the staff down at MVPA Top 100 camp back over the summer, and he got the MVP performance for that loaded 5-star field. And Arkansas has just constantly been recruiting these guys in terms of going out to see them. And again, Sinak came and did his thing and came to campus for the visit. Now you keep an eye on Wilson. But I think Arkansas feels like they're still in a good place with maybe getting one of those guys. I know they'd take 2 if they could, but they don't have all their eggs in just those 2 baskets when you look at what we call front court. Mika Murinen, class of 2026, strongly considering a reclass. That probably plays out to the spring. He was the first high school visitor after ACUF back in early May. Muirnan gets on campus 6'10", 6'11", another versatile stretch four guy, probably a four at the college level, maybe a 3-4 at the pro level. But he took that visit in late September. He'd already been to Utah, had already been to Michigan. And my source that spoke directly with him said Arkansas was by far his best visit. And then the weekend after, he was supposed to visit Duke. That was planned. He didn't take that visit. He put Kentucky off. But this is going to take a while. And if it drags out to the spring, he may pick back up with some of these schools and visit the ones that he didn't. We'll see where that goes. But Calipari has made him a priority. When you look at when you look at Nate Ament, 4 visits from Calipari in the last couple of months out there in Virginia, 3-4 at the college level, maybe a wing on the pro level, but a 3-4 at this next level. Another top 10 rated 5-star, Muirnan, a top 10 rated 5-star at 6'10", 6'11". Ament, 6'9", out of Virginia. He moved up the rankings similar to Sinak. Wasn't down as far as Sinak, but he jumped pretty well after the spring and summer. And it got him, into the top 5 in some services. I think composite, he's number 4, Nate Ament. So we'll see. He's a guy that's thought's going to probably wait till the spring. We'll see if Arkansas can get him in for a visit. And look, one thing we don't want to leave out, Arkansas's football team this weekend hosts Texas. It's a big game at Reynolds Razorback Stadium. I mentioned the 4-day dead period for visits that started today, but it's only 4 days. It ends later in the week. Arkansas doesn't have a basketball game this weekend. They host Troy on Wednesday. Then they're off until the 18th, the following week, Monday, when they host Pacific. So the weekend you could have recruits in, attend basketball practice, go to the football game, and there's still potential for that. And you're in the middle of the early period because remember, it runs the 13th to the 20th. So this weekend is a potential to bring players in and then still maybe get it done early. I say that because we just went through some of the guys like Caleb Wilson, so kind of on visit watch. Is he going to maybe visit this weekend? Maybe not. But if he doesn't and he signs early, that Arkansas is obviously out of it. Does Sinak go ahead and get it done? He's taken, as far as I know, all of his visits. There may be an exception to that. I'm not sure about that 100%, but when you look at his final schools, and so do they wait to the spring? Do they get it done? With Ament, I think that goes out to the spring. I think Muirnan, that's pretty obvious. But Arkansas still got, when you look at those 4 names, guys that would factor into your front court somehow. So it wouldn't just be backcourt guys and wings, potentially, if you get it. Now, let's talk about Isaiah Seeley. He, class of 2025, national number 55, 4-star ranked player out of Springdale. We've talked about him a lot. He's down to a Final Four of Arkansas, Ole Miss, California, and Boston College. He took an unofficial visit to attend practice at Arkansas midweek a few weeks ago, met with Calipari. He and his father did after that. 2 days later is when Arkansas hosted Kansas in that exhibition game at Bud Walton. He was there for that. He's told me that he wants to take an official visit to Arkansas for a football game. Well, Texas is I think there are 2 left. One's a non-conference game, was at Louisiana Tech still. Texas would be the only one this weekend if he was going to get it done early and make a commitment early. But he did tell me the last time I spoke with him, and I put this interview out on Twitter a few weeks ago when I went to his practice up at Springdale. But he says he's probably going to wait till the spring, but that can be influenced and that something could shift that. So I haven't seen anything else on him other than what he's told me and where things stand with him. So keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that. Again, ESPN ranks him 55th, 6'7" combo guard. Arkansas staff really likes the way he plugs in with and watching him on the Nike EYBL circuit with Team Thad over the summer and other five-star guys, other high-level 4-star guys, and how he just complements players and plays a really, really good team game with how he fits in with others, and because of his versatility and size in the backcourt. So again, keep an eye on Isaiah Seeley. So this is really, I mentioned, not every 5-star has Calipari aggressively gone after. There were some other ones, Koa Pete, things got quiet there. He didn't take that visit that he had scheduled, and parties went in opposite ways. But really, outside of him and maybe a couple other guys that Arkansas was recruiting a little bit there for a while, this is not every 5-star guy he goes after, but just about everybody he's after is a 5-star on the verge of it, just about. We mentioned Seeley, but he's a really good player. All right, 30 minutes in. I want to thank you again for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live as I recap what Arkansas just got in Meleek Thomas, what it means pairing him with Darius A. Cup Jr. We appreciate you being here. We've kind of talked about some of these other guys. I gave you a little bit of intel on the NIL money that Kentucky continues to increase and push toward Caleb Wilson. A lot of comments coming in here, and I'm not getting to them. I appreciate that. If you haven't done it already, please hit subscribe, like, and share. I'm going to have more content coming out in terms of Arkansas's previewing Arkansas's game against Troy. I'm actually going to do another YouTube live, I think, tomorrow, kind of doing upon further review after I watch the replay of the Baylor game, Arkansas-Baylor. I was there in person. I want to watch a replay of that and maybe come back with a top 5 takeaways from that game, and then also do a quick preview for Arkansas-Troy, kind of wrap all that together and knock it out. But I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Again, the big news is Arkansas lands, as expected, national top 10 rated 5-star 6'4" guard out of Pittsburgh, overtime elite Malik Thomas. Pair him with another top 10 rated 5-star guard that's been off the board to Arkansas since late July, Darius A. Cup Jr. It is the #1 backcourt recruiting class in the class of 2025. Doesn't matter what else happens for anybody else or Arkansas. Arkansas currently stands as the only team with 2 players committed it ranked in the top 10 in this 2025 class. So for now, that's also a fact. And I think, again, talking about it not just on paper, but how these guys look to me with the eye test, how they'll complement each other, what the strengths are of their games. I think it's a great complementary 1-2 punch in that backcourt. And I think the other thing here is Calipari continues to prove with 5 5-star players he's brought from the high school level with him since early April, now 2 off the board in this 2025 class, continues to prove the notion. Yeah, the headquarters, all he did was move him from Kentucky to Arkansas. He's still the dean of SEC coaches. We expect he'll still have quality teams, and we're looking toward postseason at some point. We're way far away from there now, but can he turn that around after 5 years of that? But the way you do that is continue to get great players. He did that again tonight with Malik Thomas and that commitment to the Arkansas Razorbacks. Thank you for joining me. Take care, and until next time, we'll see you then.